Radio. Raheem at Madison Square Garden with Terence Crawford. Title defense on the line, as usual for you. Like you said, getting used to these big venues. And your opponent is one of these guys, a mean machine is what they call him, that initially, on a lot of fight fans' ears, they were like, who is this guy? You know, assumed that he was not a quality opponent, but he's your mandatory. You have a choice in that. But what about him that he brings to the ring is quality? Why is this fight worth you getting up for, other than being a title defense?
Well, he's got a lot of experience in the ring. You know, being a two-time Olympian, coming from a different country and coming to the United States and being undefeated and beating some tough guys that he's beaten. You know, he's a tough character.
You can't criticize a champion for taking his mandatory. That's what mandatory means. But when you're at the top of the pound-for-pound list, everybody's vying to prove that they deserve to be that. You're there for a lot of fight fans. Is it at all frustrating not being able to pick the fights that you want to prove yourself against the guys that are competing with you for that #1 pound-for-pound spot?
Of course, sometimes it gets frustrating, but I don't put too much energy into it because I can't control it. I'm not the one that's handling their career over there or whatnot, so I don't put too much energy in it. I just make sure that I fight who I'm supposed to fight that's in front of me and get the job done and look good doing it. And hopefully those fights that everybody want to see can get made sooner than later.
I've heard you quoted as saying, well, you don't need Spence, you don't need Thurman, you don't need Lomachenko, even if that had been an option when you were at 40. What do you need? What is it?
Just to keep winning. Just to keep winning. That's it. That's the only thing I need to do. Is just keep winning. And then everything else is good with me. I say that because when we talking about my career and we talking about the welterweight's career, you know, there's only two welterweights that everybody talk about that moved up in weight, and that's Pacquiao and Danny Garcia. You know, everybody else, they started their career at welterweight, besides Sean Porter. You know, he came down a little bit earlier in his career, but, you know, I've accomplished a lot in boxing. You know, at lightweight, at light welterweight, and at welterweight. So if my career was to be over right now, you know, if they say, all right, Terence, you can't box no more, you gotta hang it up, I'll be satisfied, I'll be happy. You know, I've accomplished more than a lot of Hall of Famers have. You know, so me walking away from the sport with my head high, it wouldn't mean nothing to me if I didn't get those meaningful fights at the welterweight.
Is that kind of satisfaction dangerous at your level? Because, like you're saying, you're fighting guys who don't have the name recognition. If you feel satisfied like that, what is it? What is the opponent that gets you up beyond this level? Like, what I mean to say is, if you're not fighting Spence and you're not fighting those other names, and you feel satisfied, like you can retire and be happy, where's the fire coming from?
I'm just driven by the competition. You know, I'm fired for any fighter that steps in front of me and challenges me. You know, I think it's just the challenge aspect that thrives me and give me that motivation and fire. And it's to go out there and show the other fighter that I'm better than you. You know, don't get me wrong. You know, I want those fights, and those fights do drive me and will drive me, but at the same time, I don't feel those fights make me or break me. That's the point that I'm trying to get. Yes, it'll be great to have those fights on my resume for my legacy, you know, but at the same time, if those fights wasn't to happen, you know, Terence Crawford still is a 3-time world champion, 2-time lineal champion, undisputed world champion, a fighter of the year, ESPN, you know, we can keep going on and on.
The undisputed, not yet. Yeah.
Undisputed.
At welterweight,
undisputed. It doesn't matter what weight class. He was undisputed. You know, when we talk about undisputed, there's only a handful of people that can even say that they got close to being undisputed. You know, Floyd wasn't even undisputed. Pacquiao wasn't even undisputed. De La Hoya lost when he tried to fight Bernard Hopkins to become undisputed. So let's look at all the great fighters that was undisputed. It's a handful of them. So I take honor and pride in saying I was undisputed.
And look, turning our attention to the fight that is in front of you this Saturday night, in just a few days, everybody we're talking about is winning. You're winning. All these guys that are competing with you for that top pound-for-pound spot, they winning. So what kind of statement do you need to make on Saturday? Is it necessary to get a knockout, to be exciting?
It's never necessary to get a knockout. Just win in tremendous fashion. You know, just make sure that, you know, if you do go to the decision, it's a clear-cut, dominant performance. You know, everybody not gonna go, you know, but just make sure you dominant and you look good being dominant, and you make it exciting at the same time as being, you know, dominant.
Those of us who have seen Mean Machine fight and know his history, he's a pressure fighter. He's the kind of guy that's aggressive all the time and looking to keep the action going. You're happy to get knockouts when you can, and you're an aggressive fighter too. Do you feel like a boxing clinic is in your advantage, or are you going to head-to-head? Are we looking at something and standing in the middle of the ring and both guys just firing at will?
Well, I'm never the type of guy that just go head-to-head and just punch for punch, you know. I like the sweet science with boxing, but at the same time, I like to fight as well, you know, so we never know. That's why you got to come Saturday and tune in to see how it's going to go.
And lastly, I love talking to guys at the end of the year because we get a little bit of reflection. You're not just a fighter, you're a fight fan.
Yeah.
What was your favorite fight this year to watch?
My favorite fight to watch that I watched, it had to be... It was a lot of good fights this year, but I had to say Spence and Porter because I really was tuned in to that fight. Sean is a good friend of mine, and I told everybody it was a 50-50 fight, and everybody thought I was just saying it was a 50-50 fight because me and Sean was cool, but it was a great fight, and he showed that he's an elite fighter in the welterweight division, and ain't nobody walking over him.
Welterweight division is one of the most exciting, and then the heavyweight division this year has had some amazing fights. Obviously, the huge upset in this building in June. What do you make of the heavyweight division right now? Who do you think is the best in the heavyweight division? Title holders or Fury?
I would say the best skill-wise is Tyson Fury, you know, but Wilder got that indicator. You know, once he touch you going to sleep. You know, and unfortunately, Fury got up at 11. You know, so I say they both
at 11.
At 11, I say they both won. You know,
who wins that rematch?
That's a tough rematch. You know, because you know, if Fury come in and fight the same fight that he fought previous, it's going to be hard for Wilder if he don't switch up anything. But again, Wilder knows he can, you know, hurt Fury real bad if he get a good shot on him. So, you know, it might be sort of like the first fight.
What do you call it, a draw?
I'm calling it 50-50 fight. Calling it a 50-50 fight.
And lastly, in 2020, you're the master of the world. You get to decide what happens.
I'm looking to get all the top welterweights, you know, Pacquiao, the Spence, the Keith Thurman, all in the ring.
In 1 year. Those are your 3 fights. I hope you are the god of boxing, because I would love to see that happen. Radio Raheem with Terence Crawford at Madison Square Garden, facing Mean Machine this Saturday night. Good luck, champ. Always a pleasure to talk to you.
Appreciate it.
Radio Raheem with Bud, Terence Crawford.